ago.
In regards to the age, it's almost kind of like a bucket list item for me. Something that I want to get done. Um, I've had, as I mentioned earlier, kind of had a desire since college. While I was in college and doing all those things, the running, the weightlifting stuff, I went up on the trail with my best friend, and we spent a Labor Day weekend hiking over Blood Mountain, Woody's Gap, and all through the thing, Amicalola Falls, and absolutely had a blast. And we did nothing but hike, and we camped out under the stars, no tents, hammocks from the trees, and it was so much fun. I can't even describe it. I'm sure probably anybody that sees this is going to understand it, but a normal person out on the street who's never done this, I don't think they'll get it. But I'm looking forward to kind of bringing that back again. At that point in time too, I kind of had a desire to do the entire Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia. Between constraints though, money, time, responsibilities, it unfortunately never happened, and based on where I'm at in my life right now, the whole trail isn't going to happen, but the significant portion can, and I'm looking very forward to that part. Improvement of physical and mental health. In 2005, pretty severely hurt my back. I was wrestling with a 100-year-old oak, solid oak work table that had been my grandfather's, and the thing weighed several hundred pounds. And I was wrestling with it, trying to get it ultimately up on a stand that I'd created. So I was moving one end at a time, and I was lifting properly, squatting, but my back said, you know what, you're over 40 years old at this point, and I'm not going to cooperate with you anymore. And my back went pop, pop, pop. And while at that moment it didn't hurt, it was a couple weeks later that I started really getting the pain. For the next several years, I really kind of suffered with that. Slowly, I began to heal. Unfortunately, I also started to become, I guess, more and more lethargic. I put on weight, became a lot less active, and I just got terribly out of shape. Earlier this year, I was introduced to Health Sprout and with Dr. Eric, and I wasn't suffering the major issues anymore, but I had some minor stuff. Started addressing some of the things that I could do for myself. Dr. Eric kind of pointed me in a direction, got me doing some of the things that needed to be done to my back, and I'm in much, much better shape. I've dropped over 20 pounds and still continuing, and my strength is much, much back from what it used to be. So that, and doing the type of job that I do, I work in insurance, and particularly these days in this political environment and whatnot, things are changing drastically. The stress levels are always kind of high, I guess, with anybody's job. The future is kind of unknown, and trying to hold on to customers is a chore. And what I'm trying to do with this is help reduce the stress levels, help my mental health as well as the physical health. The last and probably the most important thing, and I didn't see this when the whole idea of the Appalachian Trail was brought to my attention late in the summer, and I know discussion had started before that. I had never considered that something outside of what I wanted to do, what I thought I needed to do, might come into play. A few weeks ago, I was on the Kennesaw, Big Kennesaw, Little Kennesaw, and Cheetah Field trails, preparing for the Appalachian Trail. And I had just come down off the mountains and was kind of on rolling hills. And up ahead, I saw on the trail a person sitting down on the trail, which is a little unusual. They weren't sitting on a rock; they were sitting down on the trail. And then there was a person standing over that individual. As I got closer up, and continuing up the hill that I was going up, I noticed that it was a lady, an older lady, that was sitting on the ground, and it was a man that was standing. as it continued on, I noticed that the man in his hand had a red, or what appeared to be a red cloth. And as I got even closer, I saw that the lady's head was bleeding profusely. What I didn't realize at that time is I was put in that spot for a reason. At that time, the man was having a hard time getting the blood stopped. I had because of the preparation for this, I had a first aid kit with me. I had earlier stopped on the trail for about 15 minutes. I was doing a really good pace. I could have probably been blown past that point that I met the lady if I had stayed on my pace and not taken a break, or if I just decided to pick it up and hurry on to the end point that was my goal. But for whatever reason, the pace that I kept was there for a reason, and I encountered this situation. So immediately, my pack, as I was about 15 yards off and could see what was going on, I dropped my pack, got out my first aid kit, and I was able to help with the lady. I was able to get the blood stopped. She was very persistent. She was a 72-year-old lady, a little younger than my own mother, and she was in great physical shape. And as we were talking, she had been going through, she loved to bike and she loved to hike and whatnot, and she was starting to get to the point where it was kind of rough for her. She kept referring to, she was so mad at herself because she was stumbling and falling and this and that and the other every time she tried to do something. And her son would be so mad at her for doing it. And my heart went out to her as I was helping. The gentleman that was with her was going the same way, that she was very determined to continue going. I was trying to convince her to return, to go with me to where I was headed, because that's where she had come from, which is only probably another 5 or 10 minute walk. As persistent as she was, there was no way I could dissuade her from continuing. I checked her eyes and they weren't dilated, so I wasn't too concerned with the concussion. So I relented. It was evident though that she needed a little assistance in addition to the gentleman that was going to be escorting her. They'd been talking about walking poles and whatnot, and a walking stick that I found probably about 3 years back that I'd used to walk up Kennesaw Mountain without my pack prior to the preparation for the Appalachian Trail. I noticed her looking at it, and she made a comment about the stick would be wonderful to help walk back, so I offered it up. So ended up losing my favorite walking stick in the whole deal, but realized, I was put in a place for a reason. It might not have necessarily been to walk on the Appalachian Trail for this 100-mile-ish interval that we're going to do, but I may have been put in a place to help this lady out. So now I want to see through the final part of this and complete the walk this weekend. So, the other part of the questions that we were asked to continue with, do I think I can make it? Oh yeah, I can make it. I'm very determined. I've got myself in pretty good shape. Eric and Andy and everyone may be able to be way out in front of me, and they may beat me, and that's fine, but I'll make it, and I intend to make every stop, plenty of time to continue both sections each day. What are my fears? I really call it naivete, but I'm not afraid of anything. The only thing that even concerns me in the least is a twisted ankle or a knee giving out or something like that. It's the only thing I'm concerned with. Not concerned with the animals, not concerned with food, not concerned with aches and pains. I'll get through all that. That'll be easy. That's the easy part. It's the body. I want the body to keep going. So that's why I'm doing it, and I'm going to succeed.